Let's take a look at the schedule, though. With those two sets out of the way, we still have Luminosity against Team Vigilant, formerly known as SPL Gatekeepers. And to wrap things up, Team Allegiance against E-United.
Right now, I'm looking at LG as E-United. Like we said earlier, 1A, 1B. They've figured it out. They've got something up their sleeve. They've definitely gotten something, and everybody else is just trying to catch up, especially LG. They are pretty much pulling out exactly what everybody expects, but still winning. But
for this last set of the day, Allegiance against E-United. Kind of a different story for these two teams. ALG struggling. They're at the bottom of the standings here with 2 points only, whereas E-United sitting pretty with 12.
E-United is sitting pretty. They're undefeated right now. If they 2-0, they should be 10-0 going into next week. They are doing pretty much everything perfectly. They have the best team comps right now. I think they probably have the best communication from my experience listening to them. I would expect that E-United could probably beat LG in a best-of-5 today.
If there's one underlying key factor for E-United that will result you as to wondering why they're at the top of the standings, what would that be for you?
I like their drafts a lot. I think that it's not necessarily mind games, but they are very good at baiting picks out. Right now, E-United has, I think, an undefeated record while playing RDO and playing with RDO and playing against RDO. So that's a character, you know, they don't ban it if they get first pick, they don't ban it, you have to ban it second, and that puts a lot of pressure onto you because if you play it, E-United knows how to play against it, and if you play against it, you probably haven't because everybody bans it.
It seems that the synergy and chemistry is quite there for United with PBM there in the mix, that he's always making the plays and the front line happen. It's going to be very important for ALG's Nero Ma to kind of try to hinder that or be the first one to engage.
Neil is a very good shot caller and a very good team fight controller. He's definitely similar to Jeff, as in he knows these cooldowns. He's saying, go on this guy, he doesn't have his ultimate, that kind of thing. He doesn't know beats. And that could definitely come into play here. United, that could, if they get caught out, I don't think they will because they're so good at pressuring a lead and doing these late game shot calls. But I think ALG has that ability to catch somebody off guard, especially early.
So how would you predict this matchup?
I'm sorry, ALG. It's probably going to be 2-0 E-United. I'm expecting E-United to go 10-0 right now, but I was going to say it could be close, but I don't think it will be. E-United has pretty much perfected the meta that they like to play and forces everybody else to play.
I mean, I think the way E-United has been playing, it's a safe bet to say that the streak does not end here with Team Allegiance. I got to agree with you on this one. But let's talk about the next set coming up. Luminosity against Team Vigilant. But formerly SPL Gatekeepers have been doing work recently.
They have been. They've kind of had their own mini-meta. Pain being able to shot call and being able to make these calls that people in NA are not doing, especially if they were to play against EU, they probably would be twice as confused because everybody knows PainDeViande's crazy calls. But the Gatekeepers, Vigilant now, they have the ability to pull out some crazy stuff, and getting that win against Trifecta might have been a surprise for people at home, but for anybody that knows this team, their synergy is on point.
It's honestly the dual lane from me when I look at this team. It's about PainDeViande and also DayToRemeber. He's always been just on fire, always been known to be that challenger player that's finally gotten his chance in the SPL, and he did a lot of work in the former Gauntlet with Oxygen Supremacy, and nothing has changed since then.
Those are 5 players. The Gatekeepers are 5 players that when you look at them individually, you say, oh, well, they're not even the best in their role. Some of them might even be bottom 3, like skill-wise, mechanic-wise. Akillathehun, you know, in mid, people don't know who that is. People don't know Turtle Man. People don't know MandoWarrior. People don't know Grave. But as a unit, they're able to pull that synergy together, especially MandoWarrior and Grave. That 2v2 jungle solo is killing it.
But the thing is, they're going to be against BaRRaCCuDDa and JeffHindla's Luminosity. How do you fare their chances?
I'm expecting them to get 2-0'd here, but I think that they have a chance to make these games close. The only way I see them beating LG is if they probably get a lead, because we've seen LG's only loss in one game come from Space Station. That was off of invades, that was off of getting Mask super behind, and Mask and especially Jeff from ahead are so strong.
And they just haven't really stopped the pressure against any team that they've been against, specifically the way JeffHindla has been making these rotations all across the map. Luminosity have just been on fire. This is why they're sitting near the top there, or actually at the top with 13 points right now, and I would have to kind of agree with you here that Luminosity is going to probably 2-0 here. But in order to bring you to the game, we're going to have 2 casters, so go ahead and take it away, guys.
Thank you, Anatoly. I'm John Youngling Finch. I got with me here Taco. Taco, How are you feeling about this set?
I think that this should be a really exciting set. Not really certain what to expect when you think about it, because there is a lot of potential, I think, for Team Vigilant to actually pop off here, but it is going to rely pretty heavily on trying to just shut out Luminosity.
Well, before the start of our game today, Vigilant were kind of sitting 4th seed there in the pack, where after 3rd seed, it really kind of drops off point-wise. And then Trifecta come in 2-0. So now Vigilant really need to try and get some points up against the top card in NA.
And that's one of the main things to keep in mind is, sure, they were able to take that split with Trifecta. It might have caught a lot of people off guard, but their synergy is going to be the key factor here for this team. They're going to have to really rely off of not only Pain's shot calling, but just their overall chemistry as a team and how well they're able to bring it together against a more formidable opponent such as Luminosity. Like, this is a top-tier team in NA right now.
It is a top-tier team. We got those picks and bans ready for you here, but something that we were talking about on the desk, we heard Ron and Tolly talk about, was that duo lane for Vigilance, PainDeViande and DayToRemeber in particular, how well they can face off up against BaRRa and Jeff.
I think that's going to be one of the key components here as well for Vigilant, is that DayToRemeber and BaRRaCCuDDa, he's going to have to really be on point, first of all, because BaRRaCCuDDa has been loving the aggro route this season, and it's been very evident in his gameplay that he wants to just continually aggress as much as possible, force as much as he can, both not only in his own jungle, but like in the enemy's jungle as well. He loves trying to get off those purple and red buff invades on the respawns.
And I love this first ban here by LG. PainDeViande has been loving this Ganesh pick so far. It's something that we've seen him take to a really elite level, kind of play it maybe even a little bit better than everyone else. So LG, take that away. Pain, you have to find something else.
And sometimes players just get really solid with these comfort picks, and Ganesh is certainly one that Pain has made a mark on for this split so far. So I think that's a very smart choice to take away. Also, the Akillathehun ban coming through from Luminosity, I think that's another interesting aspect, because Akillathehun could potentially be that flex pick in the jungle. Wouldn't surprise me. Grave has sort of leaned towards a more warrior kind of playstyle between the Camzots and the Akillathehun pick, so I think that's a smart choice.
I agree. It's interesting. Maybe that Aquarius doesn't really want to play it, or they're just more worried about giving that pick over to Grave and letting him do well on it. So that's something they choose to take away. Ratatoskr, though, the ban out for Vigilant, so taking a look towards Mask and maybe limiting him in the jungle, and Luminosity respond with a first pick Nemesis.
And this Nemesis selection, I just love it so much for Luminosity. Not only is it going to try and deter Vigilant from looking for those heavy frontline compositions, but on top of that, it just gives so much spacing for Luminosity in the team fights already based on what they're going to pick around it. It's clear that Luminosity might be leaning a little bit more towards that pick composition.
And it might even deter them from picking someone like Sylvanas, who we've seen be a little bit more popular lately, who can kind of get punished a little bit by Nemesis. We do see Erlang and Soul come through for Vigilant, and Erlang Shen's been real popular lately. He sort of had a resurgence.
I wouldn't really call it a resurgence so much as it is other warriors taking a little bit of a hit nerf-wise has really made Erlang shine through as the more prevalent solo laner, or even potentially a jungler here. Again, Team Vigilant, a team that really has that flexibility option between their solo laner and their jungler. Although I will say it is pretty interesting that they're gonna already reveal the Sol Jing combination. It seems as though they're fairly confident in taking the Jing into that duo lane.
They're not afraid to sort of show that they want that Jing is to be the one they want to take. Jing and Soul do have a little bit of flex there, but I'm looking at JeffHindla taking that Terra. Despite the recent changes, JeffHindla still feels confident with it, and that global ult, it's still really good.
As long as Terra has that Terra's Blessing, I do feel as though she'll always have a little bit of viability in the competitive scene. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that route being changed into a slow probably has a little bit more benefit towards the early game stages as opposed to the mid and late, where players can kind of play around that a little bit better. I do like what Luminosity has done so far, though, pairing the Terra alongside of the Hui and the Nemesis and throwing in a Chaac on top of that.
A lot of
slows are everywhere now.
Slows on slows on slows for Luminosity. And I like what Vigilant are doing. Check out their draft. They go with the Osiris, so it's still kind of unclear where everything's going to be going for them. If I'm Luminosity, you can't worry too much about where their picks are going and just kind of focus on your own draft.
I want to say that that's going to be an Erlang in the jungle, but
Yeah.
I could very well be wrong about that. You never really know what to expect from Vigilant, and that's kind of the main thing that they try to play around. It's probably one of their main advantages, and with that Geb being locked away, I do have to say that's still a very tanky team. Interesting to see how they're going to pair it off or against the Nemesis.
It is going to be a tanky team for them. My eyes are also going to be on Chaac for LG, how well Aquarius can pair that one off. Chaac is someone that can get ahead early or fall behind early, so Aquarius really going to need to pilot that one well.
And it's going to be, I think that Aquarius playing this Chaac again, though, was probably the best choice possible for him. Chaac is one of those gods where if you leave him alone in the solo lane, he's typically going to be safe enough to sort of AFK farm and help mitigate that map pressure that Vigilant are going to be trying to look for. And it is going to be Grave on the Erlang Shen for the jungle.
So Grave taking Erlang Shen to the jungle means it's going to be MandoWarrior on Osiris up against Aquarius in that short lane, the solo lane side. PainDeViande, we were talking about what he was going to go to without Ganesh available to him, and he ends up picking up Geb. Geb is the one that says, hey, I want to make sure that my team stays safe. That's kind of what Geb's really good at, and then the late game, he really shines as an initiator.
Geb is great when it comes to survivability for your team, but as far as your own is concerned in the early game stages, that's where Pain could potentially be punished for this selection. And for Luminosity, Baskin starting off by himself actually in the soul lane against Pain and Akillathehun on that soul. So it does seem as though BaRRaCCuDDa is going to come and help him out. Should have a little bit more lane clear than the Soul Geb can.
And that leaves JeffHindla up against DayToRemeber and Jing in that long lane. So Jing probably won't have much trouble up against Terra putting out pressure. Her level 1 for Terra is really weak. So JeffHindla just going to be kind of biding his time over there. This is what they really wanted, though. They wanted BaRRaCCuDDa and Baskin to get that early pressure in mid so they could rotate over.
It's a smart choice, though, because with a Hui and a Raijin, you know you're going to have guaranteed lane clear. Grave and Mando trying to make that rotation to look to punish BaRRaCCuDDa. He's already been slowed. Sprint has been popped. BaRRaCCuDDa's been forced into the purification beads. He's just trying to run away.
And the sprint actually comes out from BaRRaCCuDDa trying to help him get away, but it's just barely enough. That's what we get from those slows coming out from MandoWarrior and Grave. They come on over and make it really difficult for the mid lane pressure to have an impact on the jungle.
Excellent rotation, though, from Luminosity. You saw Mask and Aquarius just trying to help peel for BaRRa, ensure that their ADC can get away rather than falling at level 1. That would have been a huge cleanup kill for either Grave or Mando.
And now Vigilant still has their full jungle to go back and take when they're done clearing up this mini wave. They'll be able to get to the wave first and then head back and start to secure that farm. Luminosity, though, do get these fire elementals, so that's a small win for them. But Vigilant will be able to push some of those minions under tower.
At the very least, having some global control of the map farm is going to be pretty easy to establish for Luminosity, considering that Mando and Grave had to back off after looking to chase out BaRRa. But BaRRa is going to be a little bit further behind everybody else. He just hit level 3, so he's already tagging kind of behind. He should be okay, though, once he returns to this duo lane, just because a Jing, while she has a little bit more farm than BaRRa, it's still not going to be a god that can look to easily pressure him out early.
Hui very safe there in lane, I agree, and is able to secure his farm very easily. We saw Vigilant, MandoWarrior, and Grave in particular try to come down and steal away that blue buff from Aquarius, but with Mask's help, he was able to defend it, no problem. So now they're going to go back in and clear up that speed buff off the top, and Mask and Aquarius just going to sort of leave them to it and go back just trying to get their farm. This is what Luminosity were trying to establish. So this is what they wanted. They wanted to be able to come over, try and make things a little bit harder for Vigilant on that right-hand side. Now BaRRaCCuDDa can come back to the long lane, get this farm, and try and catch back up with DayToRemeber.
With how much AoE presence Luminosity has available to them, just from pretty much every single god in their draft, they all have some form of long-range or just giant circle-range attack that is going to be such an issue for Vigilant to deal with whenever the teamfights do start to break out.
That's a good point. Mass sort of picks who the target's going to be, and then the rest of Luminosity won't have too hard a time following up almost immediately with Baskin, BaRRaCCuDDa, and even Aquarius. So Vigilant going to have to make sure they respond to, sort of as you described it, almost like a pit comp from Luminosity, and how easy it'll be for them to decide who they want to take out. But already backing up here is Grave, just heading back to base, making sure that he's nice and healed up so he can come back and try and help invade on some of these buffs. Speed buff looks like it will be up for Luminosity here, not too long.
And with both members in the duo lane, everybody being level 5 now, actually, so wouldn't be surprised to start seeing Luminosity try and turn things up a notch. BaRRaCCuDDa already looking for the ricochets onto Day.
DayToRemeber and BaRRaCCuDDa just kind of boxing it out over here in this duo lane. Like you said, DayToRemeber likes to play aggressive. He likes to try and get those fights out. So getting him a little bit ahead of BaRRaCCuDDa, letting him come over here and get this solo farm makes sense when you consider who the players are in particular on this team and how they like to play. Good stun out on the PainDeViande. That comes the Suns from BaRRaCCuDDa to follow up, and that gives him an easy first kill. DayToRemeber could be in trouble. That sprint is helping him get away, and he does, but it's actually JeffHindla who gets credit for the first kill.
And Jeff, either way, whether it's your Terra or the Yi picking up that kill, at least they was punished, but who else might be getting punished is Maz, because he's trying to go in on that speed buff, able to collect it himself, but now it's Aquarius making the rotation over. 3-man Chaac ultimate to get everybody caught out of position.
And Grave gets stunned by the mesmerize from Baskin, who jumps in and cleans that kill up, no problem. Credit goes to Mass. Now he has to run away from Akillathehun and MandoWarrior. MandoWarrior gets the credit, but I think he's going to be joining him in the afterlife. Mass gets one more kill. Soul into that disapparate form, able to run away with PainDeViande here to assist.
And Jeff, though, he's not ready to give up quite yet. Was thinking about maybe following up on Akillathehun, but instead, Luminosity going for the bigger prize, trying to see if Vigilant's buffs had respawned yet. Blue actually just now coming up for Vigilant, but Mask and Aquarius already backed off to farm out that solo lane wave.
And this is scary if you're Vigilant. Nemesis getting two kills very early on in the game, that's a huge help to Nemesis, who can be pretty item dependent to sort of get off all the damage that she's looking for. This will accelerate that farm for her. And don't forget, BaRRaCCuDDa, who was a little bit behind DayToRemeber, they got a kill in duo lane 2, so that's going to even up that farm, and we already know how strong Yi can be in team fights.
It does appear, though, that Luminosity were successful with that blue buff invade later on. Mask and Aquarius wrapping back up just to take that one away. A little bit of extra farm in their pocket. Can't really go wrong with gathering up some XP, but it is going to be pretty problematic for MandoWarrior now having to deal with this Chaac with the blue buff and the mana regen for so long.
And that's actually how that fight started. Mask was just trying to defend his own speed buff against the invade from Vigilant, and he even able to defend the speed buff, and they win the team fight on top of it. So you're right, the jungle pressure from Luminosity this early has been really strong, and Vigilant are having a hard time dealing with it.
Chaac might not be considered to hold that thought, though. DayToRemeber actually in a lot of trouble, forced up into the Jing ultimate just to get out of the sun from BaRRaCCuDDa, but now all eyes are back onto Pain, forced into his Cataclysm, but Baskin still able to take him out.
Akillathehun drops his ultimate on top, but it's just a little bit too little too late. PainDeViande goes back to base very easily after the strong CC from Luminosity, and now it's 4-1 are the kills.
In Pain, he's been having to drop these Cataclysms, mostly in response to aggression from Luminosity. This is one of the early issues that Vigilant are probably expecting to encounter, which is probably the main reason we see Grave and MandoWarrior trying to look for those speed buff invades, kind of anticipating Luminosity to be putting more presence onto the left-hand side of the map, leaving their right-hand farm susceptible to ganks.
And the CC lockdown onto DayToRemeber in particular was so important. That's what kind of forced PainDeViande into that engagement. So sure, DayToRemeber can fly over walls with his ultimate, but poor PainDeViande just had nowhere to go, and he gets deleted there a little just too easily. Akillathehun not able to follow up in time to keep his support alive, and now Pain sitting on that 0-2-0 is going to have a harder time behind JeffHindla.
Mostly for Pain, I'm kind of just expecting Vigilant to try and keep their Gev alive as much as possible, but more likely than not, he's going to end up just continuously getting pressured out. Speaking of which, Aquarius actually going into the Chaac ultimate, trying to deter this damage from Grave, but the entire team of Vigilant wants to give chase.
The two-man stun coming out from MandoWarrior came up big, but now JeffHindla getting the slow off instead of the root, but Pain still in a lot of trouble, still gets deleted. Aquarius still getting the credit.
4 members entered and only 3 were able to walk away alive for Vigilant. Pain, again, falling victim to Luminosity's engagements.
But did you see MandoWarrior's play there? I know the team fight doesn't go their way, but he uses the Lord of the Afterlife to jump over the ultimate from Aquarius so he can keep chasing in. So just a cool individual play, even though the fight doesn't quite go their way. Now Luminosity sitting up 5-1, 2K gold in the lead. And again, this is where you start to take, the we've been invading your buffs kind of lead into a now we're going to force fights on objective kind of lead.
But this is exactly the kind of lead that Vigilant did not want to see Luminosity acquire. MandoWarrior just has to look on as Luminosity again invades that blue buff, and he was already out of mana, so even if he wanted to contest, just no hope.
It has been rough for MandoWarrior over there In that solo lane side, we see him backing down to try and get refreshed. His speed buff will be up soon. I'm not sure if Luminosity have the timer on it, but this would be a good time for them to try and push some of their early advantage and invade on it. But it looks like Vigilant are going to be able to respond there first, so not going to be able to contest that one.
Luminosity could try to play up a little bit more, considering they do have a decent lead for how early the game is in. But at the same time, you have to remember Luminosity has also been benefiting off of the failed invades from Vigilant. So as long as they just keep responding accordingly, Vigilant's going to keep putting themselves further and further behind. Although I'd imagine we're probably not going to see too many more speed buff invades, or attempts, I should say, from Vigilant.
And where we're really starting to see this lead, we haven't talked much about it, but Baskin is ahead of Akillathehun in items so far. Already got his defensive build a little bit more online. So if an engagement happens here in these next few minutes, Akillathehun will be a little bit easier to take down, and Baskin will have just a few more seconds to get that leap off if he needs it in engagement. So that's a big difference. I'm
a fan of the Dynasty Plate Helm Rush second item slot as opposed to maybe a Book of Thoth that we're so used to seeing from mid laners. And I say that because Grave isn't exactly playing a burst warrior. Erlang kind of just wants to stick on you and stay with you from that mink and the 72 transformations. But with the Dynasty Plate Helm, Baskin will be able to buy himself enough time and maybe even have some turn and burn potential.
Now that we're getting closer to 10 minutes here in the match, no longer have to worry about those fire elementals on the solo lane side, so the little bit of loss they've been feeling over there isn't going to be quite as impactful without that easier to pick up neutral camp. Now the Portal Demon and Fire Giant have spawned, and attention will turn a little bit more towards this dual lane side with the Gold Fury and Luminosity. They recognize that they're over here already, Gold Fury very low, trying to bait Vigilant into a bad engagement.
And it's PainDeViande, actually Akillathehun barely dodging out the stun from Jeff, but still with Pain carrying that mark above his head a little bit longer, it doesn't seem as though Luminosity want to fight just yet.
And this was Luminosity also recognized they'd finished off a few items, like Mask has that Wing Blade finished off, the full Ninja Tabby here for BaRRaCCuDDa as well. So let's come back in, try and use these kind of power spikes that we've gotten. And if Vigilant aren't here, we'll take it. If they show up, we can pick someone, we'll do it. But if not, let's just back off.
Both BaRRa and Day actually pretty much nearly done stacking those Devourer gauntlets. So both hunters having a pretty decent power spike to their name. I am almost expecting it to go more in favor for BaRRa, though, just because his ultimate has a little bit more presence when you're trying to secure the early objectives like the Gold Fury.
And I think you and I have talked about these Ninja Tabi in particular before, that attack speed that they give you instead of just the power, as again Luminosity invading the blue buff of MandoWarrior and making his life difficult, but that attack speed really kind of ends up just being more damage overall coming out from those Ninja Tabi.
That's in the long run. Ninja Tabi will almost always lead to a higher DPS output than the Warrior Tabi. Warrior Tabi is mostly looking for that early burst potential. Speaking of which, Mask trying to get that burst potential onto Aquilla, but Disapparate Form gonna save his life from the follow-up by Baskin.
And he holds onto his relics wisely. Ultimate comes out from Mask onto Grave, who does get the ultimate off. He'll be trying to wait for that heal, but PainDeViande is there with the knockup to disrupt the damage. It lasts long enough. Cataclysm coming out as well, but Baskin locking down DayToRemeber, who also has to use his ultimate. MandoWarrior, the last one to make it out, but he does make it out just fine, but the speed buff will not. Luminosity, take it away. 4
members from Luminosity started pushing towards that T2 tower, and you know what the first person I saw break off from that? Mask, because of that speed buff spawn.
He came right down for it.
He went straight to that speed buff. Classic jungler play, but this is a play that is also pretty classic. Luminosity having forced out, and there goes Mando's ultimate as well, but smart response by Vigilant, immediately trying to aggress onto that Gold Fury. Akillathehun, though, already so low. If Luminosity spot this one out, this could be a very dangerous situation.
Ultimate comes out from Akillathehun. They are able to secure the Gold Fury, but Grave and PainDeViande just couldn't burn it down fast enough. Grave already falls to BaRRaCCuDDa. PainDeViande does escape in that rollout CC immune form. And look at Aquarius trying to take this tier 1 on the right-hand side, too.
I'm pretty sure Aquarius is going to get away with this one as well. Excellent response to that Gold Fury secure. They managed to get a kill, a T1 tower, and the Portal Demon out of it. So as far as gold is concerned, Luminosity still hanging on to that 3K gold lead.
And this is just the experience from Luminosity kind of shining through his Mask, using that Nemesis shield to get out of trouble under the tier 1 tower. They forced the aggression on the right-hand side, so Vigilant called the Gold Fury. Not only were Luminosity ready to go respond, they don't stop the Gold Fury, but they get the kill, but Aquarius sticks behind and is like, well, I can just take this tier 1. Luminosity playing the map very well.
And that's the kind of spread that you want to see from a team like Luminosity. It's exactly what they need to be doing with this kind of a draft. And I mean, they're going to execute it better than what they're probably looking for already, just considering the lead they were able to acquire off of those early invade attempts from Vigilant. It seemed a little bit stubborn to try and run it back 2 times around on that speed buff, but either way, Max probably just happy to have acquired his early kills.
Mask is looking really good on this Nemesis, sitting at 2-0-3. MandoWarrior came to look at this speed buff and immediately thought better of it. But the place I'm really worried if I'm on Vigilant, take a look at how PainDeViande's level 10 to JeffHindla level 12. JeffHindla now has 2 relics online. That's what the important part of hitting level 12 is. And PainDeViande's still only sitting on that sprint. So LG will have more of an advantage in this next fight on top of their lead already.
Interesting that Jeff would also opt for that girdle as opposed to a shell or maybe even there's actually a few different options he probably could have gone, but I think the girdle is perfect for what Luminosity are trying to acquire.
Ultimate comes out onto Grave, who's in that turtle form trying to get away. He's not able to. The damage from Baskin comes out. Moswell actually, or Akillathehun rather, puts his damage to the fight, and it's not quite enough. BaRRaCCuDDa does eventually end up picking up Grave. He's low in the backline, has to back out, and so does DayToRemeber, who uses his ultimate to escape. Akillathehun is hanging around trying to see if he can find any more damage, but it's the red buff that ends up falling, and Luminosity happy to take one more kill.
Pain kind of just lurking around those back harpies, seeing if there's any shields he can throw out for his team, but with 4 members of Luminosity still standing and Grave not due to respawn for another few seconds, that's most likely going to be another free speed buff for Luminosity.
Now they're coming to take this speed buff too. It's just the buffs for Vigilant are not safe, the jungle's not safe, the camps are not safe. And neither are the neutral objectives. Luminosity kind of just exerting their will on the map at this point, coming over to take this blue buff as well. And Vigilant recognize they gotta come in and try and start fighting it. They gotta stop the bleeding. If they keep letting Luminosity take whatever they want, then they'll just lose slowly.
And that might have been a slightly different team fight had Vigilant been successful in taking out BaRRaCCuDDa, but unfortunately just not enough damage yet from Vigilant to lock down the Hunter. And because of that, Luminosity was just free casting on the backline of Vigilant.
And now Luminosity 7-1 of the kills. That gold lead again up to 4,000 now. And we're only 16 minutes into the game. It kind of feels like it's gone by even faster than that just because of how aggressive Luminosity have been all over the map. They're kind of regrouping now, giving themselves a chance to heal back up. And this tier 1 tower in mid's looking very low. That could easily be the next call for them.
Things are getting pretty rough though for Pain. But with Baskin sitting under half health, it's given Vigilant the confidence to try and push out on this T1 tower in mid. Doesn't seem like they want to keep that aggression going, instead turning their attention to the red buff.
It feels like they're just kind of trying to group up now, but maybe getting a little too over-aggressive as PainDeViande. The ultimate comes out for Grave onto 2 members and does taunt them back in, but the damage from Akillathehun not quite on the mark. So that's 2 ultimates down for Vigilant for just the 1 from Luminosity.
Akilla was able to connect with that supernova onto BaRRaCCuDDa, but he's level 16. Akilla is 12. That ultimate is tickling BaRRa right now, and he's the carry. He doesn't even have a whole lot of defense. Instead, he went straight from Executioner looking for that chin size, because even though Vigilant haven't been able to build all the health in the world, there are a couple of Urchins already online, and so building into that chin size is ultimately going to give BaRRa way more shred potential against those frontliners.
We talked about Akilla not doing much damage. It's just because I think he's chosen to go a little bit more defensive so far. Not that there's anything wrong with his build path, but just because he's behind, he hasn't had a chance to really put any damage items in the build. And look at Baskin. He's going with that Gem of Isolation, so trying to get a little more utility into this fight.
Akilla is kind of just suffering the repercussions of Vigilant's failed invade attempts on those speed buffs, because once Luminosity was able to establish such dominant control over the solo lane side of Vigilant's jungle, it just means that Akilla isn't able to get that farm either. He's kind of just having to put everything into the mid lane that Pain or Grave is usually splitting that XP with him as well.
Grave gets stunned down. The ultimate from Mass comes out immediately onto him. He's able to back off, though. He had to use his ultimate to get that heal, but once again, the red buff going the way of Luminosity. They're constantly pressuring the jungle of Vigilant, and after forcing them out, they come right over to start up the Gold Fury.
Attention to detail is everything for Luminosity, and for sure, they kind of just wanted to see what else they can get. BaRRa just missing that ricochet on today, probably sweating a little bit considering his last Hui experience.
That's right. Aquarius, he's going in to solo invade that speed buff. I was watching to see if he was going to try and rotate into this fight because he'd have been ahead of MandoWarrior, but he's looking for the invade as JeffHindla and Baskin are fighting it out with DayToRemeber on the left-hand side. Baskin goes up into the ultimate and forces DayToRemeber to use his ultimate. I feel like it's been defensively all game from DayToRemeber.
He's had to play defensive all game. There's really no openings for Vigilant to try and be on the aggressive. It's just been Luminosity executing everything they need to a T, leaving no openings whatsoever for Vigilant to really try and counter-engage.
MandoWarrior is coming in on the back. Cataclysm goes off into BaRRaCCuDDa, stunning him, but the return damage on the PainDeViande is just too great. BaRRaCCuDDa gets credit for that, and he's very low. Aegis ticking to keep him alive, and Grave looking to clean that one up, and he does, but Mash, JeffHindla, and Baskin are all here. Aquarius does get some damage off onto all 4 members thanks to that hammer, but it's Mask who's looking to take down Grave.
Mask with the Blinken actually dropping the ultimate down with the MandoWarrior, but that was just a distraction. It's going to be Grave who's the target. Aquarius continuing to hold W at Akillathehun, and really he might be in a little bit of trouble for it now, actually getting tethered, slowed, knocked up, all the damage from everybody, and it's going to be Day putting his mark on the board.
So far, this trade is in favor of Vigilant, not just because it's 2-1, but because they only gave up PainDeViande for Aquarius and BaRRaCCuDDa, 2 valuable targets from Team Luminosity, who are the furthest ahead, at least XP-wise, and now they're coming back over to start up this Gold Fury. Mask is here, though. Mask has an ability to come in and put damage onto Mando and Aquila, who are both kind of low, and now he's given time for everyone else to show up.
And that's all that Mask needed to do, was just buy his team some time to respawn. Jeff with a great placement right there of his monolith. Unfortunately for Luminosity, not going to be able to find that kill onto MandoWarrior, but stopping Vigilant from acquiring that Gold Fury, still a massive victory.
And Grave is getting some solo farm and solo lane, which could be good for him because he has been a little bit behind Mass. So not only taking the tower, but getting some of those waves to himself after they were able to slow down Luminosity's aggression onto the Gold Fury, so neither team ends up getting it, but this does cut into that lead substantially. Vigilant now only down about 2k gold.
It was a very strong response compared to what we've been seeing from Vigilant this game, which I think better late than never is probably the best way to put it here. I also liked what MandoWarrior was doing in that solo lane. He knew that Aquarius is going to be taking those jungle buffs off cooldown. That's just expected. You forfeit those because you know that the enemy solo laner just has more of a lead against you. It's going to be in their advantage. But by proxying out the waves, it just meant that that tower was going to be eating damage whenever Aquarius did rotate, and that's what happened, and that's why it was so easy for Grave to just make his way over and take that one off the map.
And winning that fight for Vigilant, that was hugely important. I got to agree with you, Taco. We talk all the time about taking those small leads and turn them into big leads. That was the fight where Luminosity was about to do it. If they take that Gold Fury and they open that gold lead up to like maybe closer to 6,000, that's to the point where Vigilant maybe can't fight back in. But they make the defense. Now it's at a way more manageable level, 21 minutes in, 2k or so, maybe closer to 3k is not a huge deal. You can definitely still fight as Aquila gets aggressive.
This is all about trying to bring Aquila back into the game as well. He's actually sitting pretty high in the player damage charts despite being a little bit further behind Baskin, but it's still a little victory like you mentioned, and they just need to keep piling those up to be big ones.
They do force Luminosity off the Gold Fury, and the call seems to be Aquarius getting his stun off on the 2 members. MandoWarrior is in trouble as the sprint comes out crashing over the top. It's Baskin, PainDeViande getting the Cataclysm off on 2 members, setting up DayToRemeber to take down Mask. No problem. DayToRemeber happy with that kill, but now he's in a bad spot. The Aegis keeps him safe from the damage from BaRRaCCuDDa. That's 1-0 in favor of Vigilant again.
But Vigilant, all 3 members actually incredibly low, looking to back. Luminosity, not the same case. Actually looking to clean up these oracles first and foremost, just to make sure that they have that vision on the Gold Fury. But even with only 4 members alive, Luminosity probably still could have kept pressuring into that Gold Fury pit, playing it safe rather than sorry, though.
And this is where we're seeing the tankiness of Vigilant that we talked about kind of shine through for them. Grave, MandoWarrior, and PainDeViande are getting to the point where it's getting a little bit harder to burst them down right away, and Luminosity aren't able to keep all their members alive, and Vigilant get the return kill. Now Vigilant have the Gold Fury very low. Luminosity are here, but they're not here quite in time. The Gold Fury does go the way of Akillathehun, and Luminosity just kind of have to back off.
Luminosity actually caught sleeping on that one, not able to respond in time, looking to try and find that cleanup kill onto MandoWarrior. Maybe it's a chain of events. BaRRaCCuDDa, though, getting the last hit on Mando's life.
I like them backing off here. Don't send in a whole bunch of, like 1 or 2 at a time to also die, trying to save MandoWarrior. Trade him out for that Gold Gold Fury, and now that gold leads like 1,000, but Luminosity are looking for this tier 1 in mid.
And without one of their frontliners available, it is going to make the defenses a little bit more difficult for Vigilant. But finally, a speed buff going back into the hands of Grave. He's got to be cheering about that one. Luminosity, they're not ready to just stop after that T1 tower siege. They're looking at the Portal Demon now. Grave
may have forgotten what speed buff does at this point. He hasn't had one in so long. JeffHindla getting a stun off on the Grave to force him back, but it's the blink in onto DayToRemeber. Ultimate already come out. He still has his available, though, to dash over the wall. Grave knocking up 2 members to get the escape off, but Luminosity just creating space for this Portal Demon.
And it's the space control that what's going to make the difference between securing this objective and not. No one from Vigilant wanting to venture into that Fire Giant pit, just willing to forfeit that objective to Luminosity.
So despite Vigilant coming back in and making the game very close, Luminosity force this Portal Demon. They do a good job of creating space up top. They secure it for free. Now they've got to way back in and start trying to get some vision around that Fire Giant pit if they so choose to start that dance up.
Luminosity do need to be a little bit careful, though, with the Nemesis ultimates, just because if it's okay in that instance, because they're not looking to get the kill. They're looking to just pressure out Day, since he's going to be dealing a lot of damage if the teamfight were to break out. But they need to find the picks off of the Nemesis ult. That's kind of what their comp is based around. It's entirely built around trying to just immediately kill somebody off of those Nem ults. And if they're not able to do that, Vigilant, they get the free back and come back in. Eventually, their late game's going to start to come online.
And I'm glad you brought up Day 2, Taco, because that's what I think turned that last fight, the Gold Fury, in their favor. It was the first time I can remember DayToRemeber getting to ult into the team fight instead of having ult away and try and run away. So he was able to get a bunch of damage off, and it kind of turned things in their favor.
And that's one of the fun facts of Jing Wei. She kind of just has so much survivability already in her own kit. Pain doesn't really have to keep continuously looking after him, but speaking of looking after someone, Mando looking after himself, popping that sprint buff just to try and make sure he doesn't get pinned down by Luminosity.
So that's sprint and Lord of the Afterlife that MandoWarrior won't have available to help out in the very next engagement, or at the very least, he'll have to wait a while on those cooldowns, so Vigilant might have to play a little bit more careful than they would have otherwise.
Pain, though, not looking to take it easy anytime soon, actually being pressured out by Baskin and JeffHindla. And I do believe, yeah, that was actually a Wingblade proc coming out.
And MandoWarrior doesn't have his ultimate available, doesn't have the sprint either. Those thorns, though, are enough to deter Aquarius from pushing onto him, but they're not ready to give up the pressure at all. Looping in on the bottom side are Baskin, as well as some of the rest of his team. BaRRaCCuDDa there as well. Aquarius taking a lot of poke, maybe more than he meant to. Cataclysm keeps him under the tower just long enough for DayToRemeber to clean up that kill. The Suns come out from BaRRaCCuDDa, and they're a little bit useless there, so that's an ultimate he won't have available.
And now Vigilant actually with the advantage of the 4v5. It's going to be about 45 more seconds until Aquarius respawns. A lot of pressure now onto Baskin, Mask, and BaRRa to provide enough damage output to stop Vigilant from looking for the Fire Giant.
And what happened there, Taco? Aquarius goes really deep. He's just pushing the issue, to say what Totally likes to say, but he keeps going underneath that tier 2 tower, and he ends up taking way more pokes than I think he meant to.
It was way more than what he was expecting, and that's kind of just one of the benefits of Jing Wei having that Poison Star and the chin size. You've got the chins and the eggsy shredding through all those protections and health that Aquarius has been building up on, and then the Poison Star just for good measure to slow him down as he's trying to get out of the T2 tower line.
And now 4 members of Vigilant here, or rather all 5 and only 4 members of Luminosity. Those 4 members, though, are enough to keep Vigilant from trying to start up any kind of objectives. They don't feel comfortable doing the Fire Giant, or rather now they do. They go in. JeffHindla gets the slow off on the 2 members, and BaRRaCCuDDa has to jump away. JeffHindla still under pressure on this right-hand side. There comes that girdle we were talking about earlier. JeffHindla just gets deleted, and he's no longer going to be available for Luminosity either.
And Day just trying to do what he can to heal up off of that blue buff. Luminosity kind of just forced to watch. It seems as though they're trying to secure their own speed, but a lot of hesitance coming out for Luminosity, and I can't blame them after that engagement.
Vigilant playing it so patiently right now. The stun coming, the slow coming out right onto Aquarius. Akillathehun very low in the backline, having to back off. Aquarius gets the silence off onto 3 members, but not able to get any more aggression. Mask is here, and Baskin's up on top of those Tycho drums. Lots of low health bars. This could be good for him, but doesn't get any kind of grouping or control without JeffHindla to help out. Suns come out from BaRRaCCuDDa, and PainDeViande forces the Cataclysm. He ends up dropping, though, to BaRRaCCuDDa.
And finally, BaRRa able to find that kill onto PainDeViande, meaning that Vigilant is now forced out of the fight. Everybody backing off. MandoWarrior trying to be the lone defender in case Luminosity's looking for the Fire Giant. That won't be the case, though. Not feeling very comfortable with this one, considering that their team was pretty poked out as well.
And we've been hanging out on this Fire Giant side of the map, kind of just trading back kills 1-to-1. Neither one of these teams have given up a big loss yet, so no one's felt comfortable going for this Fire Giant. We're seeing a lot of respect from the 1 seed right now for Luminosity towards Vigilant. They know they can't just start this Fire Giant up in their face and expect Vigilant to watch.
And for good reason. Vigilant have had a great showing so far this split ever since they made their way in from relegations. They've really been a team that a lot of the other members in NA have kept an eye on, so to say.
DayToRemeber was trying to start up this Gold Fury, but Mask was enough to force him off of it. They're trying to keep it leash, though, because it is half health, and this is a chance for him to burn it down quickly. PainDeViande's here, though, and he doesn't want to give it up. Damage coming out from Baskin. Not sure if it was quite enough. BaRRaCCuDDa is able to secure it for Luminosity, and DayToRemeber falls as well. Mask getting credit for that kill. Grave with those thorns ticking, trying to put out damage into the team fight, but it's BaRRaCCuDDa who's under trouble. Look where he's positioned. No, he still has the jump available, so he's okay. Baskin cleans up Grave.
And BaRRaCCuDDa actually still trying to handle MandoWarrior on the backside. Will find the last hits onto him. Meanwhile, Aquarius taking PainDeViande out as well. 4 members dead from Vigilant. T2 Tower, not even a thought for Luminosity. They just want that Fire Giant, and they want it now.
DayToRemeber starts up that Gold Fury. Mask rotates in time to slow him down, and then Luminosity forced the fight on the Gold Fury. Vigilant couldn't handle it, and now Luminosity have a Fire Giant that's not going to be contested with only the Akillathehun left up on the map.
What happened was Luminosity finally went back to spreading Vigilant out, and once they spread that team so thin, all the target focus just onto different members. You had Mando looking for BaRRa, you had Aquarius just kind of handling Aquila away from the rest of his team, and it was really just Luminosity handling the spacing of the map.
Portal Demon now lets Luminosity go back, buy up some items, spend that 6k gold they've been able to amass here after taking all the neutral objectives off the map. They'll be able to come back in and start heading for those tier 2 towers, which you mentioned are all still available. Even a tier 1 still in that long lane side. So there's plenty of gold on the actual map for Luminosity to get and extend this gold lead out further. And that's what that first Fire Giant does for you.
And you gotta feel bad for Vigilant in that case, just because what was once a very even game, really not certain which direction it's going to go, and then it just explodes completely out of control in favor for Luminosity. And this is a team that you don't want to give a lead to.
And what's happened is that any fight either team lost has been like maybe 1 member going down, or at least only 1 more than the other team. This is a 4-man wipe. Luminosity didn't lose anybody. Vigilant, they finally lose a fight by too large a margin, and LG already looking to take a little bit more. Ultimate comes out into Akillathehun, and Mask is there with him. I gotta think he has that hasten ring, and he does, trying to chase him down. Cataclysm comes out into 3 members, though. That's gonna deter the aggression, but not from Aquarius, who blinks in under the tower.
That hasten katana really just doing work for Mask, forcing out everything from Akillathehun, just trying to get away. That Aegis no longer available will make this an even easier T2 siege. Can't see Luminosity having any trouble locking down this tower.
Only MandoWarrior and Grave are here. Actually blinking in aggressively as Baskin paying for it a little bit from that damage from DayToRemeber, but he's okay. Still sitting at half health. Tier 2 tower falls, and Luminosity look towards that tier 2 in mid, and I think Vigilant kind of want to defend.
I love another aspect for Luminosity, and that is the Aussie pickup by BaRRaCCuDDa, actually going for the 2-time lifesteal build, and that is just buying him so much sustain and really helping him peel for himself against those tanky frontliners, as well as helping him shred through both of those thorns.
And he's choosing to go with that attack speed pen tree rather than DayToRemeber, who's going all crit to synergize with Jingwei's passive. Sprint, though, coming out from Luminosity, and it's Aquarius who's way in the back line with a little bit of help from Mask as well, zoning out 4 members so that the tier 2 tower can get shredded. MandoWarrior actually might have a chance to clean up Mask on that right-hand side, very low. Lord of the Afterlife ticking, but the blink out of combat long enough to get away is Mask. He's going to be safe. Tier 2 tower falls, and Luminosity give up nothing.
That speed buff really paying off for Mask. He procced the wing blade from MandoWarrior, which is the main reason we saw him being a little bit faster than that Nemesis with speed, but now with...
Good stun.
Oh, that was a great ricochet.
BaRRaCCuDDa just showing why he's so good on this Hui. That ricochet was nice just to get some extra damage off, but they're going to do more than extra damage onto this tier 2 tower. It's going to fall. No way Vigilant can defend it despite having PainDeViande and DayToRemeber here. Tier 2 tower falls back. Still a minute left on the Fire Giant for Luminosity too, as they've cleared up all the tier 2 towers on the map.
And it's still one of those things where Luminosity, it went from being a barely 1.5, 2,000 gold lead, Vigilant working their way back into the game, back into keeping things evenly spread. And now we're at an 11k gold lead, and sure, everybody's kind of approaching the level 20 mark for Vigilant, but Pain, he is hurting at level 14 right now.
Oh, wow. Pain's way behind level 14. I got to agree, that's something that could be a big problem for him. He can't really be the frontliner they need him to be, but you talk about how quickly that the lead exploded. That's what happens when you're even at 30 minutes. Luminosity win a fight at Gold Fury. They take all the objectives. They take Gold Fury, Portal Demon, Fire Giant. Then they come over and take all these tier 2 towers. When you go even that long, it only takes one fight.
Especially when you factor in those death timers, and that's really been the main thing working against Vigilant. Just these respawn timers building up and up and up, and Luminosity, nobody's falling down on their end.
That's right. They're doing a good job staying alive. BaRRaCCuDDa, like you said, with that double life steal build, that's keeping them alive. Aquarius obviously going very tanky with his build. We even see Baskin, we said earlier, brought a little bit of defense to help keep him alive and playing very safe. His positioning's been great this game. So now Luminosity with that Gold Fury, with all the tier 2 towers down, grouping up for that Fire Giant in the next 30 seconds. They're going to want to get that down, force Vigilant into a bad fight so they can go siege these Phoenixes.
And one of the primary reasons why this is also working out so well for BaRRa and not preventing him from having the same kind of damage output is that Mark of the Crow. The way that it works with Hu Yi, it kind of just shreds away. Lower a person's health yet, the more effective that mark becomes.
And Akillathehun has been struggling a little bit for Vigilant. You can see him down at the middle or so of the player damage. He's second on his team at least, but even behind the damage that Mask has been putting out. So that's showing that he's not been able to do much. He does have that hasten ring there in his kit so that he can try and keep those auto attacks going and be a source of damage for him, but he just hasn't been able to provide enough in these fights, I don't think.
And that's one of the benefits as well that Luminosity has, is because Mask can either be the initiator or he can be the one looking for the chase clean up potential. It all depends on how he wants to play things off of Jeff and Aquarius. Mask might not be as tanky as Grave, so to say, because he's not playing a warrior, but Nemesis still having that shield, as long as he's not hard CC'd out of it, he'll be fine to continue aggressing into the backline for Vigilant.
Now Luminosity establishing position around this Fire Giant. They're starting up the Portal Demon, and Aquarius is the one on zone duty, which he's done so well all game long. PainDeViande getting stunned out. That Portal Demon does come through shining blue for Luminosity LG, one of the top teams here in North America, along with E United. BaRRaCCuDDa getting it started up. He's able to do it with that double life steal build, and while the rest of his team zones him away. But they drop it for now, respecting Vigilant, I think.
Luminosity maybe looking for some bags. Baskin might have just finished off picking up a power pot even, but no, it's going to actually just be for wards. Luminosity really wanting to get complete control of vision on the map.
And there's still got to be, you still got to be worried. Akillathehun can steal it away very easily. So can DayToRemeber, even with his ultimate. So they want to make sure they know where all the members of Vigilant are so they can confidently secure this objective, since Baskin's damage on Raijin doesn't come out all at once. It is kind of a bit channeled, but PainDeViande gets Cataclysm off on 3 members, and Akillathehun follows up right away. Not a whole lot of damage coming out from it, though, and actually Aquarius still going aggressive. PainDeViande and Akillathehun both getting knocked up, both silenced and having to back off.
Everybody from Luminosity was backing up, but Aquarius was going forward the entire time. Again, BaRRaCCuDDa looking to pull this Fire Giant. MandoWarrior kind of getting zoned away by Baskin, and now BaRRa, he's ready to join the fight. PainDeViande sitting at about 30% health. This might not be the place he wants to keep hanging around.
He has to try and help keep his team alive, though, with those shields. And this is what Luminosity are doing. They're being very patient, using the heals from Terra, forcing Vigilant in and poking him out until they can no longer contest. Now the Fire Giant being brought down to about half health, and MandoWarrior can't even get past all 4 members of Luminosity. Mask going aggressive on a PainDeViande in the back, and JeffHindla gets credit for that one. Baskin, though, is pounding on those drums right behind, and Aquarius cleans up MandoWarrior. Forget the Fire Giant. Luminosity are looking for the kills as DayToRemeber, his Aegis runs out, and Baskin cleans that one up too.
This might actually be the game. Mass taking out Grave, surrounded by 5 members from Luminosity. It's only Akillathehun left to defend, but I don't think he's got it in him. There's 5 members from Luminosity with more than enough sustain to be able to end this game.
I don't think he has it in him either. Phoenix on the right-hand side falls. 5 members of Luminosity here and looking strong. Akillathehun looking to try and get some damage in, trying to keep his Titan alive, but I don't think he can. Luminosity looking like the top seed in North America. They clean up Vigilant in game 1, who really needed the points, Taco.
And that was actually probably a little bit more fortunate for Aquilla that Luminosity opted to end there instead of killing him first. But
messing up that 0 death slash line he had going, right?
That was a very, very clean game, though, from Luminosity, just completely amping up the pressure out of nowhere.
Yeah, what we saw from Luminosity just now was patience, and I think that's something I talk about a lot, but it's something that the top-end teams have. It's something that they do. They recognize that the game is still very even. They didn't want to put themselves in the spot to throw the game. They force in the other team to try and contest it until they put themselves out of position.
Luminosity had great patience, but I think what worked out even better for them in that game was that nobody had anti-heal from Vigilant, and I think that really worked against them because there was just so much sustain. BaRRa getting away with the double lifesteal build. You had Jeff on that Terra and the Terra's blessing. It's just there needed to be a little bit more anti-heal, and I think that also really worked against Vigilant when they were trying to come back through those counter engages.
Well, we got